The big box RV store near me charges almost $500 for mobile RV work, and I think that's way too much. So here's how you can do what the pros do, save hundreds of dollars in RV repairs using this one simple tool. You got this. So what is this thing? Well, it's called a multimeter. And don't get overwhelmed at just the sight of him. He's number one, pretty cheap. I got this guy for around $7 at Harbor Freight. Don't get me wrong, you can spend a couple $100 on a fancier one if you get into this and decide you like it, but this $7 meter from Harbor Freight can do everything that I'm gonna show you today. And two, this guy takes up like no space in your RV. Like really, this much space, save you several $100s. I think that's a worthwhile trade-off if I've seen one. Today, I'm just gonna show you my number one most used setting on this thing, and that would be the DC voltage test. To set your meter to DC volts, you're just going to look for a section labeled DCV for DC volts, go figure. And then because these really cheap meters aren't very sophisticated, you do need to tell it roughly what range of DC volts that you're expecting to see. When it comes to DC volts, our main source is from our batteries. And these batteries usually sit right around like 12.5 volts. So we're gonna set our meter to 20 because that's the closest number it has to 12. It's that simple. And boom, you're ready to save money in your RV. Let me show you how you can use this one test all over your rig. If multiple things in your RV stop working at the same time or are acting up and acting weird, the very first thing that you're gonna wanna check is your batteries. To check if your batteries are good, they can stay right as they are in your RV. I just pulled mine out so they're easier to see. Then just set your meter to DC volts. You already know how to do that. See, you're halfway there. Then I would go ahead and unplug your RV from shore power and then just make sure some lights are still on in the RV. That makes sure that there's still a load on the battery. Then you're just gonna take your black probe, put it on the negative terminal of the battery, take your red probe, put it on the positive terminal of the battery, and you should see something in the realm of 12 volts. Boom, 12.36. This is a good battery. If you have lead acid batteries, again, you should see something in the realm of 12.5 volts. If you don't know what kind of battery you have, you most likely have a lead acid battery. These are considered the cheapest thing on the market, so they are the most common batteries that you find in RVs. If you have a lead acid battery, when you go to do that reading, anything around 12.5 volts, A-okay. Anything under 12 is going to be considered a dead battery, and most techs would tell you to immediately replace it. Usually, because I'm a little cheap, if it's my own personal battery and I get a reading that's above, I'm going to say like 8.5, that's not a hard and fast rule, I'll pull that sucker out and put it on a charger and see if we can't revive her just to get a little more juice out of her. It's unlikely, but I have had it happen. So, you know, if you're really strapped for cash, that's a thing you can try. But if you're getting a reading under 8 volts, that, my friend, is a dead battery and needs to be replaced. She's not coming back. But in the end, just this test that took us like 60 seconds to do is something that techs charge money for. And that is the power of your multimeter in action. 60 seconds, $7 tool. I just saved you a couple $100. Let's go see what else we can use this test on. Also, if you find yourself really liking this kind of stuff, check out, I have a link in the description to a free PDF guide that'll walk you through the other tests on this multimeter and how you can use them to solve 10 of the most common calls that I get as a tech. Like I said, it's free, links in the description. You got this. But the next thing you can use that DC voltage test for is to test your converter. So inside of your RV somewhere is a magic box that charges your batteries for you when you're plugged into shore power. That magic box is called your converter, and it works the exact same way as like a battery tender you might put on your car battery if you were gonna go away on vacation for a long time and you just wanna make sure your battery didn't die while you were gone. It's just fancier because it runs more often. If your battery has died and you've been plugged into shore power the whole time, the next thing that I want you to test is your converter, because your converter should have been keeping the battery charged and kept it from dying. You can usually find your converter hiding in and around your fuse and breaker panel. Like on some panels, there'd be another section underneath here with like a weird looking box and a bunch of wires. That would be your converter. For me, it's just hiding behind my fuse and breaker panel. So right there, that's my converter. But you don't even need to dig out your converter in order to test it. We're just going to do the exact same thing that we did to test our batteries, except we're going to plug our RV back into shore power. So again, pretend this battery is all wired up and exactly where it should be. Again, I've just pulled mine out to make it easier to see. But with my RV plugged into shore power, I would take my black probe, put it on the negative terminal, take my red probe, put it on the positive terminal, and this time I should see something in the realm of 13.5 volts. This is because we charge batteries at a higher voltage than they sit at. Think of it as like trying to pour water from one cup to another. You need one of the cups to be at a higher place, otherwise the water will never move from one cup to the other. Same goes for the voltage on your batteries. If you're seeing 13.5 volts at your batteries when your RV is plugged into shore power, then your converter is probably working just fine. If your batteries died recently, it might have just been their time. Batteries do only last so long, so it's not crazy that they die even when your converter's fine. But if you're not seeing 13.5 volts at your battery when your RV is plugged into shore power, then that's a really good sign that your converter isn't doing its job. And you may want to look into replacing it. If you do have easy access to your converter and want to test it directly, just look somewhere on it. There's going to be 2 thick wires that go into it. One's usually red, one's usually black. Just take your black probe, put it on the black one, take your red probe, put it on the red one. You should see something in the realm of 13.5 volts. I just couldn't do that and hold my camera at the same time. You got this. What about if your air conditioner won't turn on? Or your furnace for that matter. A lot of people, when their air conditioner stops working, assume they need to replace something on the air conditioner, but I've often seen that the problem is not with the air conditioner, but with the thermostat. Real talk, when I bought this RV, I was able to get like $1,000 off of what the seller was asking, because at the time, the air conditioner wouldn't turn on, and after doing just a little bit of noodling around, I was able to figure out that I was pretty sure it was just the thermostat, but the seller didn't know that, so I got myself a deal. Here's how you can do something similar. If it's the air conditioner that won't turn on, set the thermostat to cool and high fan, and then set the temperature as low as it will go so you can ensure that the air conditioner should be kicking on. Then open this sucker up. That is the hardest part of the whole process. Like, getting into these things is kind of a pain in the butt, but you can do it, I promise you. You got this. It's just like a little bit of squeezing. These things are a little bit of like my arch nemesis, but it's like a little bit of a squeeze and I'll pull, heave ho, heave ho. Got it. Oh, told you, hardest part. Once you're in, you're then gonna set your meter to DC volts. Again, you already know how to do this. And then you're gonna put your black probe on the blue wire and your red probe on the red wire. And you're looking for something in the realm of 12 volts, just like we were before. This is the power coming into the thermostat. If you don't see 12 volts here, that means that power isn't even making it to the thermostat, and your problem is upstream. I would highly recommend going and checking your batteries. But if you do have 12 volts going into the thermostat, then we're going to look for 12 volts coming out of the thermostat. So we're going to take our black probe, put it on the blue wire, and we're going to take our red probe and put it on the yellow wire. This is the signal coming out of the thermostat to the compressor on the air conditioner. That's the part that actually does the cooling. If you don't see roughly 12 volts here, then that means you have a problem with your thermostat. While you're here, you can also keep your black probe on the blue wire and take your red probe and put it on the green wire. And this is the signal heading out to the fan on your air conditioner, telling it to turn on. You should also see something in the realm of 12 volts here. If in any of those places you had 12 volts coming into the thermostat, that means in on that red wire, but it didn't come out of the thermostat, meaning you didn't have 12 volts on either the yellow or the green wire, then your problem is most likely your thermostat. If you know how to check for fuses, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to be showing you how to do in the next video, there is a tiny little fuse hiding right here on the thermostat, just waiting for you to test it. But if that fuse is good, and the thermostat's not sending out power, then you should probably look at replacing your thermostat. Look, you solved that problem all on your own. Did you get the basics of testing your thermostat? We first looked to see if power went in, and then we looked to see if power came out. If power went in but didn't come out, then that part is most likely our problem. This is the basics for how to test anything in your RV. Dometic water heater won't turn on. I would just take my multimeter, set it to DC volts. Remember, you already know how to do that. And then I would just take my black probe and put it on this screw here. And then I would just take my red probe and follow the path of the electricity and see where it stops. If at any point power goes into something and doesn't come out, then that part's most likely our problem. Here, I'll show you it in action. I'd start by following this brown wire here, going into a part called the T-stat. And I take my red probe, put it on one side of the T-stat, and I look for something in the realm of 12 volts. If I don't see 12 volts here, then I know that the problem is upstream of the water heater. I'd probably go check your batteries. But if I see 12 volts going into the T-stat, then the next place that I would look is coming out of the T-stat. And I'm still looking for something in the realm of 12 volts. If I see 12 volts go into the T-stat but not come out, then I know the T-stat's most likely my problem. Switch that bad boy out and you should be good to go. From there, you can just continue down the path of electricity. The next thing in line is this part called the thermal fuse or thermal cutoff. I can't remember. There's like so many of these in RVs. It's a giant fuse that's supposed to break if things get too hot. First, I'd look to see if power went into the thermal fuse. Then I'd look to see if power came out of the thermal fuse. If I saw 12 volts go in but not come out, then I know the thermal fuse is most likely our problem. I could continue doing this for basically every part of this water heater until I figured out why the water heater wasn't working. But what if your fridge won't turn on? Then I would just head over to the back access panel of your fridge and set my meter to DC volts. I would take my black probe, put it on this screw here, and then I would take my red probe and put it in this terminal block. If I didn't see 12 volts there, then I would know that the problem is upstream of your fridge, because that's step one. If I didn't see 12 volts there, then I'd probably go check your batteries. From here, I would just follow these wires over to this heat sensor. Keeping my black probe on that screw, I then take my red probe, put it on one side of the heat sensor, see if I had 12 volts going in. Then I would put my red probe on the other side of the heat sensor, see if I had 12 volts coming out. If 12 volts went in but didn't come out, then I know that heat sensor is most likely your problem. And I'd switch that bad boy out. And then I would charge you money for it. Except now you know how to do that for yourself. So you can save yourself that chunk of change. Huzzah. But yeah, then you just keep going down the line. There's another heat sensor between that heat sensor and the circuit board. There's a lot of heat sensors in RVs. So you can see if power made it into that heat sensor, see if power came out of that heat sensor. Power went in but didn't come out, then that heat sensor would most likely be your problem. And you could continue on down the line for basically every part of your fridge. If you're like, Emily, how am I supposed to know the order? Like, it's not immediately obvious which part comes first and then second and then third in the line. If you would like to learn the step-by-step process for your fridge, water heater, furnace, and air conditioner, real soft pitch, I've got a course that costs less than what most techs charge for a single call. The link's in the description if that's interesting to you. But if you're still new to multimetering and you're getting kind of excited about saving money in your RV, check out this video while I'll show you a different test on here that can solve the #1 most common call that I get as a tech. I wish more RVers knew about this one.